So happy today to have Billy Catfish Parker and his wife Laura with us. They're really, really good down to earth people. Whatever he says while he's up here, we'll wait and we'll hold reserve on that because I don't trust him to be quite honest with you. He has been known to tell tales on me. But Billy lives an exciting life. You know, he's driven the NASCAR circuit. Now he and his wife both are actually co-hosts of Hank Parker's Flesh and Blood. They do hunts with the outdoor dream hunts and also help me with the wooded border turkey hunt. They're just good Christian people, and I'm telling you, there's a lot of people in that industry that are just simply not that way. And we've discussed that before. It's that way in all walks, a lot of people. And as a matter of fact, we were on a hunt together. And, we were actually packing up, and Billy's father, Hank, he and I were the last two, for some reason, I don't know how that happened, but we were packing up some of the camera stuff, and Hank began to share his testimony with me and to witness to. And it was a very, very interesting testimony. Never heard Billy's, so I'm not sure what he's going to say today, but maybe sometime in the future we'll get Hank to come and do his as well. I'm sure you can look it up. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. I've never done it. I'm sure it's somewhere. It was very interesting. But I got to tell one story. There's so many Billy Parker stories I can tell you. One, you are my dad. That's right. He's talking to you. So we're on this turkey hunt together. We're out scouting one morning, and man, we're headed up this big ridge, and wind's blowing right in our face, and there's a lot of turkey sign. I mean, they're scratching everywhere, and I'm thinking, this is where we need to set up right here. This is it. And we're walking up an old logging road, and just as soon as I top, and I top it first because I'm the tallest one in the group, and just like today, Billy's the only one mic'd up. The cameraman's like from me over to Gary over there behind us, and as soon as I top that hill, there's about a 400-pound boar bear looks up at us as I top that hill. And that's what's making all that sign. It's not turkeys. He's grubbing. Of course, he slaps his own teeth a couple of times, bounces a couple of times to let us know he's not happy that I'm there. And the first thing that hit my mind was, there's a camera behind us. And the first thing I did after that is I pulled my pistol, and I'm thinking, okay, there's two game wardens here. And if this ends up on TV, I sure don't want my mom or my grandkids to hear what I might start saying. So I'm looking over this hill, and I got my pistol, and I said, hey, Bear, hey, I said, Billy, tell him to turn that camera on. Billy. Bear, hey, Bear, Billy, tell him to turn that camera. Billy, Billy, tell me. He was gone. counting on this. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming, Billy, for us lay on your heart. I appreciate it.
Make sure I'm locked up here, so if I get back here, can y'all hear me? Is this thing working?
It's on mute.
Working to you?
It's on
I
mute.
already have that confused look on your face. Answer the question, we good?
It's still on mute.
Still on mute, okay. That's good, because when I was singing, you didn't want to hear that. Now I can hear myself now, we're doing pretty good. So you don't have to be the toughest, the strongest, the tallest guy all the time. Sometimes it just pays to be the fastest. And in that case, you know, luck was on my side. But yeah, we get to do a lot of neat things. I do a lot of traveling, and my wife, she's the star of the show, and we have a good time. We produce a television show called Hank Parker's Flesh and Blood, and it's where my dad and myself and my wife, Laura, and sometimes my big brother Hank Jr. we'll all join in, and we'll just basically make TV shows out of our hunting experiences. And it's been a real neat time for us. We've been doing that for about 10 years now, so time flies, and we get to meet a lot of neat people like Chris, and get to have opportunities like this, to get asked a lot to speak at different churches and events. And it's always one of my most favorite things to do, because I like talking to people. My wife says I like to talk. She actually says, you like to hear yourself talk. But this goes back, you know, before the hunting show that we do now. When I was born in the 70s, if you must know. But when I was a kid growing up, my dad was a professional fisherman. And that's pretty cool. You think about back in the 80s. Those were some good times, wasn't it? The 80s. Remember the television used to turn off at 12 o'clock at night. You remember that? There was no TV after 12, it was just a blank screen, but things were different in the 80s, and my dad was a professional fisherman, and he learned at a young age of that, I mean, he could make a television show and make more money doing it on TV than he could in these tournaments. But he continued to do both, and he actually really did well really early in his career, and it really catapulted him. He won Bassmasters Championship, Angler of the Year, Triple Crown this, and everything else. He did really well for himself, so he started the show. I remember going places and meeting people, and they're like, Hank Parker, you know, man, I watch you on TV. I watch you on TV. That's really cool. And how does a man get paid to go fishing? That kind of doesn't make sense. I mean, nowadays things are different, but back in the day, I mean, to think about you get paid to go fishing, that's kind of a pretty wild thing to think about. So my questions or what people would identify with me growing up because of all that was, man, what's it like? Looking down at, you know, these men would just be like, what's it like to have Hank Parker as a dad, a fisherman, an outdoorsman? What's it like to be the son of Hank Parker? I bet you're catching 10-pound bass in your diapers, you know what I mean? That's what people really thought, that because of my dad's success and how good he was, I guess they thought I was just going to be that naturally gifted to do the same thing. And I kind of wanted to tell them as I was growing up my most favorite memories of fishing. And one that really sticks in my mind the most is, well, my dad was gone quite a bit, and so when he got home, it was a real treat for me and my brothers. Now, there's Hank Jr.'s the oldest, and there's then myself and my twin brother, Ben. Y'all don't know Ben, but he's crazy. He's completely crazy. He's the funnest guy you've ever seen. But there's Hank Jr., there's me and my brother Ben, twins, so that's three of us really close in age. Then I had a younger sister named Lucy, which we called her Lucifer growing up. And then my youngest brother Timmy, he's the strong, big guy of the family. You think he'd be the youngest, he'd be the runt, but he's kind of like the exact opposite. So growing up, when my dad would get home, it was a real treat for us. My dad was my hero, and I imagine that's the case in a lot of young boys' life. But my dad was this icon to me, and my dad's a neat guy. He can tell really cool stories. He's just a neat dude, and he would come home, and I knew when he got home it was going to be good. We were going to get to have some fun, some man time, because we've been stuck with Mom for a month, and you know, you run out of things to do with Mom. So Dad would come home, and I remember him getting home late, and he'd he'd crack the door open in our room and say, all right, boys, we're going fishing first thing in the morning. And that was, I mean, I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Yeah, that was pretty exciting. And not to think that we're going to catch 10-pound bass at 5 years old, but we actually went and had a good time. And one of my most memorable trips, what I think about the most when people say, what was it like to have Hank Parker as a dad growing up? I think about this one particular fishing trip where we all walked down to the river. It's my dad, my oldest brother Hank Jr., myself, and my brother Ben. And like I said, my dad was my hero. He's kind of a big dude. He's got these huge hands. I mean, it's almost like, you know, he could make a living at the carnival. His hands are so big, okay? And he'd take that rod. You know, we were out on the pier, the dock, and he took that rod, and I can remember him casting that thing. And me and my brother was looking at him. His hands just totally engulfed the rod, and really couldn't even see anything, just the rod sticking up. He'd cast, and we never did see the thing again or drop down. You know, it's like it cast for miles, just for miles. And we're like, yeah, that's awesome. You know, we could barely hear that thing in the distance. And so my brother, Hank Jr., who's 2 years older than me and Ben, he had his youth-size rod, you know, it's kind of a mid-size rod. And I remember him casting, you know, maybe went out there, maybe from here to the end of the wall down there at the most. And then there I am, I'm up next. And I realized, you know when you're defeated, you know when you're not going to win, you just accept it. And I took my Snoopy rod and I just pushed the button and I just let the bobber fall. I'm good with it. I realized that, you know, I'm not there yet. So I just accept defeat and go on. My brother Ben is the total opposite, okay? He's crazy. And if there's one thing Ben wants to do, that's win. And so Ben, same Snoopy rod as I got, we're brim fishing, but for some reason he has a treble hook on there. Do you know what a treble hook is? It's a cluster of 3 hooks, and they have this big barb on them, so once they go in something, they do not come out. So Ben gets up there, not to be defeated, and he takes his rod and his reel, and he gets that, you know, that 9-year-old boy stance, and he takes, and now his bobber and weight and hook is all hanging about right here. Did you see that? It's all hanging when he's back. It's about right there. And he goes, and when he casts, he stops about right there, okay? Now use your imagination where he's hooking himself. It's not good. He's white as a ghost. My dad's fishing. I'm amazed at what Ben has done. And he's fumbling around, you know, trying to fix the situation. He looks at me and I'm like, I'm out. He looks at Hank Jr. and Hank says, buddy, you're on your own. Well, after several minutes go by, my dad realizes Ben's not casting every 30 seconds like usual. And, Ben, you got a problem? Dad, I got a mess over here. Got a real bad mess, yeah. And I mean, he's just no color. He just looks like he's, you know, he's done. And so Dad, I can just see the look on his face when he realized where he'd been his hook, that this is not good. And they go to work for a good while. I mean, this takes a good 6 or 7, 10 minutes, and Dad comes up, sweat his brow, and Ben comes up, and he's all got that color in his face, like he's going to actually make it. And they're done, they're good. So my dad, the hero of the moment, saved the day and removed the hook from Ben, which was no easy task, considering it was a treble hook. Like I said, a cluster of 3 hooks with some barbs. So back to fishing. So my dad cast. I mean, it looked like it went a football field away. Hank Jr. cast. It maybe went from here to the end of the room. I cast. My brother Ben, not to be defeated. This is a chance for redemption, okay? This is his chance to show Dad that that was just a fluke. We can make this thing happen. So he does his thing. My brother Ben, the certifiably crazy one, takes that rod and reel. Again, that bobber, that hook, that bait, that everything on there is dangling in a really dangerous area, he cast as hard as he can. And you're going to probably leave here thinking I'm a liar, but he hooked himself exactly as he did the first time, but only better. Okay. Dad looked at him, assessed the situation, and said, "All right, boys." He took a pair of needle nose pliers and he cut the fishing line off there and said, "We're going to the house." So that was a typical day of fishing for us. You know, I think at that time everybody had their own thoughts of what it was like to fish with Hank Parker or be the son of Hank Parker. But that's pretty much how it went. Ben later on in life went to be in the Guinness Book of World Records for hooking the most people, including himself. No, really, he didn't set any records, but by the time we were, I'm going to say 15 years old, not only did he hook every family member, every pet that we had, and every neighbor kid, he hooked everybody. I mean, I can tell you, if Ben ever invites you to go fishing and you decide to go, wear a helmet. So he will hook you. You will get hooked. So that was a lot of our fishing treats growing up. And my dad also was a hunter. He really likes to hunt. And he was a duck hunter when I was young. We had, lab dogs, and it was a lot of fun. We had an old duck boat and all the decoys and a lot of neat stuff that men have to have. You ever notice when you drive by a house and there's a shed or a garage out back? And if you go in there, it's full of man stuff most of the time, is it not? And then we always fuss about our closets, our wife's closets being full. But for some reason, we got a shed that's full of man things. And that was kind of what my dad had. He had his little man shed. And there was a lot of neat stuff in there when I was a kid. It was like Carowinds. I would go in there and there would be these old duck decoys and archery targets and all this neat stuff that boys would just love, you know. And he introduced us to duck hunting. He was going to quit duck hunting because they changed the law I don't know what the limit was beforehand, but they changed it to 2 birds. So it was a lot of work to duck hunt. You get up early in the morning, you have to do a lot of things. You set a lot of decoys out, and you can shoot 2 birds or something, 2 mallards maybe. And my dad was like, "It's just not worth it." So I was pretty surprised one evening, when Dad cracked the door up and said, "We're going duck hunting in the morning." I thought Dad was going to quit. There's a lot of work for 2 birds. So myself, my oldest brother Hank, and my brother Ben, and my dad, 4 o'clock in the morning, we're going on the water. And like I said, my dad's my hero at this time. I got everything. I look like Ralphie on the Christmas store, okay? It's really cold. My dad's got a short sleeve shirt on, and his mustache is frozen. And he's driving that boat, you know, that old tiller handle Mercury, that old green boat. And we got the dog and the decoys and the guns, and we're going out to hunt. This is a really neat experience for me growing up. At the time, I didn't realize, but my dad is really building a bond with his kids, and you know, we're learning to trust him and doing some really fun things. And we get to hunt, and I remember hunting with a single shot 410. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, a single shot 410, and you're shooting ducks. I mean, that's probably not going to happen. But every time we went, we always had our limit. Dad had his limit, I had mine, Ben had his, and Hank Jr. had his limit. And I remember leaving one day and meeting some guys out near the boat ramp, and guys, "Hey Hank, how'd you do? You got our limit." "No, kid, boy, the ducks were flying high this morning. They were really high. We couldn't even reach them with our full chokes." And your boy there with that 410, he's got his limit, I say. And yeah, sure did. Them boys are a real crack shot when they shot. So I think there's some type of reward to having kids other than just loving your kids. I think there's a lot of work in having kids, and this might have been a little bit of reward to I guess, boost his limit. But we really had a lot of fun time growing up. And my dad introduced us to the outdoors. And my dad was one of those guys who he always, when he talks the talk, he walks the walk, you know. Whether we're with a group of men that we don't know, or whether we're in a big environment, when we eat, buddy, we say the blessing, you know. And I never heard my dad use language or cut up or tell jokes or run a bunch of, you know how men are when they get together like renegades, they'll just. But my dad was a good dude. He really walked the walk. That doesn't make him perfect or any better than anybody else, but I think his model was for his boys. He really wanted to be what the Lord wanted him to be, so he could be a good example. And I'm sure that's a lot of work. I look back, and I'm a grown man now, and I realize, it's hard to do the right thing. It's hard to do the right thing with 3 kids, wrestling around your feet all the time. But he really did good, and I remember getting home from one of those events, one of those hunts, or one of those fishing trips, and we had supper, and we all talked about how much fun we had. And Dad said, "Y'all run up, get ready for bed, and I'll be up in just a little bit." And I can remember Dad coming in our room. I immediately noticed he had a different look on his face, and he sat down on the edge of the bed, and it was me and my 2 brothers, Hank Jr. and Ben, and my dad had a Bible in his hand, which wasn't out of the ordinary, but I could just tell, he had something on his mind. And he said, "I want to tell y'all the story of Jesus, if you would." You see, my dad wanted to tell me this story, but my dad was an alcoholic for most of my life, and I resented him. So I didn't give him the time of day. I didn't really let him ever tell me the stories that he wanted to tell me later in life when he gave up all those demons that he struggled with. And this is a chance for me to tell you guys about who Jesus is, if you'd let me. Of course, Dad. We're eager to hear anything that my dad has to say. Just to spend time with him was a real treat for us. So I remember Dad opening up the Bible. He didn't read from it a lot, but he kind of referenced it here and there. And he told us about the birth of Jesus Christ. And it was really interesting. And he told us about the life of Jesus. And that was really interesting. And now, you got to know that I've heard these stories before. We were churchgoers, and we were raised in a Christian home, and I'd heard these stories before. I'd sat through this. Sunday school, church, Bible camp, but I've never heard it with this type of emotion and this type of sincerity that he was telling me. It was totally different. I never experienced anything like this before. I look back and I realized that the Holy Spirit was just using him and just filling him full of God's glory to tell his boys about who Jesus was. And we were on the edge of our seats basically. And he got to the part about the cross, and we were just kids, we were young boys, and everything he said made perfect sense. It was so clear, it was so easy to understand. And he told us about the cross, and he told us about what I remember is Jesus dragging his own cross up that mountain. And then Dad told us about how they laid him down. My dad's a real emotional guy, and just, I'll never forget his face and his emotions. And he told us, my dad held his hands out, and he showed us how they drove these nails and these big spikes through the flesh and the bone of Jesus Christ into this wooden cross. And wow, that lump in my throat, I was really having a hard time with this, that they would do this to somebody, Jesus Christ. And he told us how they sat him in that hole, and that he lay naked before the whole world, innocent man. And that he told us about his death, and basically how the people spat on him and mocked him and stabbed his side, and his water ran out, and how Jesus basically died from exhaustion and suffocation, from not able to hold himself up so he could breathe. And we were tore up. It was hard to take in. And my dad said, "You see, boys, John 3:16, we all probably learned that at a young age. For God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him will not perish but have everlasting life." And that resonated with me. I mean, that really, really set in with me. Even at a young age, it was just clear. And because I want y'all to know I love you. I love my boys. y'all are my world. I would die for you. No hesitation, I would die for any of my kids at any given moment, if that's what it took so that you could live. And I believe that, and I still believe it today. I think my dad would, no hesitation, would have his life taken if it meant for his kids to live. And he said, but you see, I'm not enough. I'm not everything that you need. For John 3:16, as I just told you, I wouldn't let you boys die for the mercy of someone else. I couldn't lead you to sacrifice for someone else's sake, for this country, for these people, for everyone who's ever born. I would die for you, but I don't have what it takes. Only Jesus Christ has what it takes for your heart to be fulfilled, for your life to be fulfilled, for all your dreams to come true. Now, we've had good days and we've had bad days, and you boys, I know you love me, but there's days that you think you don't love me, and there's days that you think I don't love you, and it won't always be this easy, and I won't always be where you're at to protect you, but Jesus Christ is. He will never let you down. He'll never let you feel unloved. He'll never disappoint you, but I will. And I couldn't believe the words he was saying. I couldn't believe that my dad would ever disappoint. I can't believe that he would ever think I didn't love him, or I would ever think that I didn't love him. You know, this was baffling to me. He said, I'm not enough. I just want you boys to know Jesus Christ is everything. And he told us about salvation. And then that was that night. That's how it ended. He told us he loved us, and we went to bed, and he told us if we wanted to talk or we needed to know anything, that he's open ears at any time. So I went through several days, I guess. I can't really remember how long it was, but I went through a short period of time of really soul searching. And how awesome is it to be a young kid or an old man, no offense, anybody here is old like Chris, but how awesome it is to reach out to Jesus Christ, to reach out to God, and Him speak right to your heart. No barriers, no nothing, and that's what I did for a short period of time. I was really reaching out. Even though I was a young man, and I haven't lived my life to the fullest, and I haven't really been put in a situation to be what you would maybe say a criminal or a hard guy, but I knew in my heart I was lost. I knew that I did not have God. I knew when my dad told me that story, that I had been saying no to a God that has said yes to me on every way and everything that was good. And I just felt horrible. I was scared. I was alone. I felt the first time in my life I felt separation. And I didn't want that in my life. And I remember being at a church a lot like this where I grew up. And I think it was a Wednesday night. And I realized at that time it didn't have to be a church for me to come to know Christ. I could be on a school, but I could be anywhere. But that's where it all came together for me. I remember sitting in through the service, and then the preacher gave an altar call at the end, and I was stomping toes and giving elbows getting out of that pew to get down to the front. And I can tell you, I had Jesus living in my heart before I ever got down here, okay? I knew that's what I wanted in my life. And I knew that that was what it was going to take for me to be protected and for me to feel loved. But not only for what I needed, but it's something I wanted. It was a desire in my heart that I needed Jesus Christ. And I think about kids today and kids then and just in general about the influences they have. And I'm really thankful that I grew up in a Christian home, and I grew up with a dad on many occasions, not just those the occasion I told you, that he told me about who Jesus Christ is and what Jesus Christ has done for all of us. And my dad was humble enough and meek enough to say he wasn't enough. He didn't have what it takes. He wasn't strong enough. He didn't love enough. He did not measure up to who Jesus Christ is. And my dad took that upon himself to tell me that. He didn't leave it up to Sunday school or vacation Bible school or church or anything else. he looked me and my brothers in our eyes, and he took the time and he shared the gospel of Jesus Christ with us, so that at any matter, at any age, we could understand it just clear as a bell. And because of that, I have Jesus Christ living in my heart today.
Yeah.
So that's how I come to know Jesus. So I wanted to share that with y'all, and I appreciate you letting me be here to do that.
You know, every one of us has a unique testimony, and that was certainly unique. And I know that, you know, you may have a testimony like that. As you say, I came to know Jesus at a certain point. Maybe your father or your mother or grandparent, someone led you to the Lord, maybe a pastor. But there may be somebody here tonight or this morning that, you know, you've heard these things and you heard stories about Jesus, you know about him, but you've never really come to know him in your life personally. But we're going to have an invitation hymn right now and sing together. And as we sing, let this song be your prayer to the Lord. And as you're singing it, say, Lord, I want my life to be yours. I want to give my life totally in surrender to Christ Jesus, who, as our speaker said, went to that cross for us. Took all that punishment, that horrendous punishment upon his life for us, for our sins. Of course, he rose again, he's alive today. Have thine own way, Lord. As we sing the words of that, I'll be up in the front to receive you. If you want to come and say, I want my life to be, I want to become a Christian, I want to be baptized, or maybe God's been leading you to this church as a place for a spiritual home, and you feel like this is the place where you step out and you and your family, wherever, and join with us. Number 294. Let's all stand together. Have thine own way. Meet the front.